Find yourself paralyzed by constantly analyzing what the next best decision to make is? Find yourself chronically avoiding tasks, knowingly or through procrastination, but don't quite grasp why? Do you find yourself in a constant state of go, 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 with no room for failure? Is the question, am I ready? A prominent calculation in your decision making? Well, if so, there's a chance you could be under the clutches of perfectionism. A term you either actively ascribe to yourself, or one you've never even considered. Besides, it's a strange way to frame it, right? How can someone who is burnt out and someone who is chronically avoiding tasks both be perfectionistic? One is being overly productive, while the other struggles with productivity. This was a question on my mind when I became aware that perfectionism was interfering in my life and, increasingly, in the life of others in our modern era. In this video, I want to show you some of the mechanisms of perfectionism to help you reflect on your own actions and habits, all in the hopes of giving you new perspectives and ideas to tackle the hurdles that you may face from perfectionism. And hopefully, by the end of the video, you'll understand how such a contradiction in perfectionism can even exist. Perfectionism is the refusal to accept any standard short of perfection. It's the belief that perfection is actually attainable. But it can also be that unrelenting voice inside that has a fixation on flawlessness and refuses to accept anything that falls below it. It's the harshest critic, the greatest judge. Some of you might be skeptical about framing perfectionism in only a negative light, as by doing so it might imply that striving to produce your best work or achieve a high goal is a bad thing, and that is definitely something I am not trying to say. There is a range of behavior that can fall under the term perfectionism, but there is a difference between actions that are reasonable and grounded in healthy motivations, as opposed to those that are maladaptive and obsessive, causing never-ending problems to a person. Unfortunately, there's no universal border between the two, so it is up to everyone in their individual circumstance to figure out where that line is drawn. Maladaptive perfectionism, at its root, emerges from a sense of insecurity. When we experience low self-worth or low self-esteem, our mind feels like our current self is not good enough at heart, which is something that we struggle to tolerate. So, to make up for our imperfections, we try to compensate and almost be the opposite of what we feel we are. So, we aim for perfect as our barometer, because who wouldn't want to be perfect? Right? As a result, we create a distorted expectation of ourselves that is not reflective of our actual abilities and what is reasonably attainable. This is because we might genuinely feel behind others. We might feel that we're not living up to our potential. Or because we're scared that we're unable to tackle certain tasks that others do with ease. The unrealistic expectation generated from these sentiments instills a deep fear of failure and uncertainty, as, well, you can't afford to fail. You're already so far behind. You can't be seen to fail, as you'll lose your social image, or be seen as less than your potential. Or you're afraid you just can't handle failure. Now, you may relate entirely to one of those sentiments, partially to two, or even situationally to three of those reasons, like I did. Everyone's experience will be unique. As for the rest, we can categorize all the sentiments by the major effects that each one produces, namely burnout, paralysis, and avoidance. The common theme uniting all these behaviors is the search for certainty, fueled by that fear of failure that we just highlighted. Whilst in the bigger picture, the effects of maladaptive perfectionism are negative, it also possesses a positive element that does something for you, which is one of the reasons why you pick up the behavior in the first place. With burnout, you grind and sacrifice yourself to avoid failure, to ensure certainty. You're not allowed to fail. The definition of perfect could be getting the top grade in a class, becoming the perfect partner, or the perfect employee. The positive? You see results. Pouring in hundreds of hours of work or attention to something will produce at least some sort of returns, and sometimes those rewards are enticing. The negative? Well, at what cost? You chase a goal for which you have to give 130% effort, which means sacrificing other important parts of your life to make up that extra 30%. Your mind is always on and never turns off, as it needs to ensure that all points of failure are covered. And if you do end up failing in any minor or major way, you disproportionately beat yourself up for it. However, each success doesn't bring you closer to what you'd consider as enough. Instead, your goalposts just shift, leading your mind to never be satisfied, which only increases the intensity of your efforts to chase that fleeting satisfaction, becoming more unsustainable as time goes on. With paralysis, you try to logic your way out of failure by researching, preparing, or learning your way to certainty. As a result, you spend abnormal amounts of time trying to figure out how to do certain tasks and not fail at any step. This could be you spending 3 hours researching if you should buy the $16 or $17 charger on Amazon. It could be you spending 2 hours picking what character to play in a video game, to only then have 30 minutes of playtime at the end of your day. Or it could be looking for that productivity system that will solve your low productivity, but then never fully implementing it as you always keep looking for the next best one. The positive? You will learn a lot and will become knowledgeable in multiple fields. The negative? You experience massive delays in making your first step as you keep searching for more and more information to ensure certainty. But instead, you become stuck in a cycle of, I don't know if I should or shouldn't do this, due to knowing too much. So you pick the $17 charger. How different would your life have been if you had instead chosen the $16 one? And was the difference really worth 3 hours of your time? Well, finding that productivity system, which will improve your organization by 1.8%, paired with the 7 methods of organizing your notes and the 6 gadgets to manage your time, really solve your issue of productivity? Or are you just avoiding the task at hand by waiting for the perfect fix or the perfectly tailored environment to act? With avoidance, you simply don't participate in situations where you could face failure or uncertainty. Either your expectations are so high that you can't be seen doing any action that falls below it, or you feel you are just not ready and can't manage failure. This could be you rejecting an offer from your friend to play a sport that you're bad at, to not look incompetent. It could be you never venturing out of the safe zone in a video game, or only ever playing in easy mode so that you can ensure that you win. It could be you never attempting to apply to a job that you want, as you feel it's out of your reach because, well, those applying are probably better than me anyway, so my chances would be tiny. The positive? You never have to deal with failure or uncertainty, so it's more comfortable for your mind. There's less things to worry about, and you can focus on the things that you're good at. The negative? Your dreams and aspirations likely remain frozen and unfulfilled. Over time, your personal development can stagnate, and you can fall prey to becoming unidimensional, living off of the diminishing dividends of your past actions. And what happens if you start to become worse at the one thing that you're good at, due to ever-changing external factors, or simply not updating your abilities with practice and experience? Remember, your mind loves certainty, and all 3 behaviors guarantee it. You will brute force certainty at any cost. You will prepare and account for certainty, however long it may take. You will only act in domains that are certain. It's either 100% or 0%, both of which are certain. Anything in between allows for the presence of failure. Unfortunately, I can't account for every possible scenario or variation of action that is possible within the umbrella of these 3 categories. But I hope that most of you were able to make a connection or observe a close equivalent in your particular circumstance. So, is there a way out of this? Is there a way to break out of habitually resorting to these behaviors? Well, yes. At its simplest, the antidote to perfectionism is confidence. Now, many of you may recoil and think, come on, man, that solution's too simplistic. It's like saying the best way to win a marathon's to come first. It's not a simple thing you can just quickly do, otherwise we'd all be doing it. So how are we supposed to figure out what to do? And you'd be right. But don't worry. Half the battle with things like perfectionism is awareness. The more you notice it in action, the higher your chances are of intervening or finding clues as to what is causing it all. And with this same awareness, you'll be able to find moments to test and build your confidence. Psst, you don't have to be perfectly confident to experience change in this domain. So there's no avoiding this one. So, what do I mean by confidence? Within our context, confidence is the ability to face uncertainty and withstand fear. At its most basic, we need to shift away from trying to always overcome fear and instead start to build our resilience to it. In our past examples, we did what we could to eliminate fear out of the equation by creating certainty. Each of these is a coping strategy. As with every new situation, we have to start the process over again. So we still remain stunted by the fear of failure, as we are not solving the root of our issue, which is an aversion to an emotion. By starting to build our resilience to fear, each experience will transfer its learnings to the next, and in the best scenario, it will act as a positive reinforcement loop. Every time you survive fear, your confidence to approach fear and uncertainty goes up, which will then naturally expose you to more uncertain scenarios, which then builds upon past experience and resilience, and the cycle begins. We will still experience the emotion of fear, but to a lesser degree, and with the reassurance that we can manage whatever it can throw at us. Okay, great, we've got our game plan. But how exactly can we do that? As you can imagine, there are many different ways we can start the cycle. And for some of you, light bulbs of what you can do have probably already started flashing. So, in that case, trust your gut and go for it. You know yourself and your situation the best. I'll do my best to illustrate how I personally approach the 3 styles of perfectionism outlined. So please, note that the methods I present were tied to my personal circumstance, meaning there's always a chance it won't be a perfect fit for you. But I hope it can at least serve as a case study or visualization of how you can begin such a process. There is a difference in approach between those experiencing burnout and those stuck in paralysis or avoidance. Confidence will help both, but the reasoning and observations you need to make are a little bit different. Burnout is the trickiest of the 3 to address, as it will likely be the one that throws up the most mental resistance. The reason for this is that the source of our perfectionistic burnout potentially has deep roots that can strike at some fundamental questions about us in the world, our self-worth, or our values. Things that take time to explore and understand. Something that can't be adequately addressed by a single video on the internet. So please understand that there is no magic bullet, but I can at least offer you questions that will hopefully poke at the right places, so that you can begin to notice your perceptions, and with that, start to challenge your beliefs, to figure out and see if the perceptions which you operate by are grounded in reality, or are indeed as good or bad as you think. With burnout, as you act, you'll actually experience a lot of micro failures. So you've become accustomed to failing, but you probably absolutely hate the feeling of doing so in a disproportionate manner. Understanding why this is will be the first step. So, why are you going at 130% all the time? What goal is being achieved? For who is this goal being achieved? If it's for you, how does sacrificing other important parts of your life to achieve 130% factor into your decision making? Is the sacrifice worth it? If it's for someone else, how would they feel if you only gave them 100%? Why do you have to strive for goals that always require 130% of you, while everyone else is allowed to just aim for 100%? Why are others allowed to be good enough, but you are not? Why are you afraid of being imperfect? The brightest fires burn out the quickest. So always being at 130% is either going to lead us to collapse in a boom and bust cycle, or get stuck in a never-ending, miserable plow. Also, giving 130% alone does not guarantee certain success. Brute effort can certainly be useful, but it's not the only component that matters. Here are the diary entries of Franz Kafka, who, for a whole 3 months, was unable to get any work done. Seems like he wasn't giving 130%. Yet, his work reverberated through Western culture, which then inscribed his name in history. If all that mattered was giving 130%, then Kafka should have failed. Again, I'm not dismissing effort, but in our situation, we are hyper-focused on it to a fault. So we need to rebalance its place in our action equation, thereby making our actions more sustainable for the long term. You can still achieve success through utilizing other factors in your action equation, by ensuring your body gets adequate treatment through eating, sleeping, and exercise. so that you can feel full of energy and be more focused and aware on a daily basis. By learning new skills or insights, by delegating tasks, by better utilizing creativity, by optimizing your time, by asking for help. All of which give you a wide toolkit to choose from to tackle novel tasks and not be reliant on the same strategy over and over again. So far, you may be on board with all that I've said, but something still makes you say, yes, but not me. Here, the way you perceive your self-worth may be tied to your push to act perfectly, as you try to make up for your own inadequacy by getting that top grade, by being the perfect partner, or by being the perfect employee. So by not doing that, you return to being inadequate. Your low self-worth allows you to easily sacrifice yourself to become perfect. I mean, after all, your thoughts and feelings are just worthless, right? So why wouldn't you disregard your well-being and try and be perfect? I'd argue against this. I see our limitations as being that which makes us human and likable. Vulnerabilities and limitations are things we appreciate in others, alongside their talents and skills. Think about it. Why do we appreciate watching the clueless but eager novice? Why do we like the professional who stumbles but laughs it off with everyone? Why do we become closer to a friend who opens themselves up to us? Why is it that Superman is considered the most boring of superheroes? An uber-perfect man with no faults saves the day once again. There's a reason his powers have been steadily reduced. I've always liked the phrase, limitations make the art. We don't dismiss a photograph taken on an instant camera because it didn't use the best $25,000 lens, just as we don't dismiss a good sketch done with a pencil because a better one could have been done on Photoshop. You don't have to be perfect to be appreciated. Think of your friends, sibling, parent, or even your favorite content creator. If they announce that they are struggling and need to slow down for a while, or that they failed and are worried about their failure, what would you show them? Content? Disgust? Or compassion and empathy? You are valuable, even with your limitations and vulnerabilities. That can be a very hard thing to grasp. It was for me at least. But you have value just the way you are right now. This doesn't mean you don't have space to grow and improve. That's something healthy and noble to do. But you have intrinsic value as a person, regardless of how well you do that. So, your goal is to identify the social mask you may or may not be wearing, the emotions you may or may not feel, that guide and shape your behavior. Write them down so that you can pin it down in word. Try to understand it. Where you can, learn to process those emotions or challenge your perceptions. Seek out help or guidance from friends, family, the wisdom traditions, or even trained professionals on how to deal with these factors. You already give 130% of yourself. So why not use that extra 30% for this journey? Remember how in the intro of the video, I asked if "I'm not ready" is a common phrase in your decision making? Well, we're going to hijack that phrase and actually make it work in our favor. Let's start with a simple foundation. What is one of the simplest and easiest ways to learn something? Trial and error. You try something, it works. Hooray! Keep going. You fail, you reevaluate, and you go again in a new way. It's win-win. When we say the phrase, "I'm not ready," what do we mean by it? It could be that current me is not suited to the task at hand, that my worries have not been addressed, or that my ability to succeed is not guaranteed. So why do you need to be ready before you do something? Well, to not fail. And what are the consequences of not being ready? Uncertainty, which means possible failure. But failure is also a way to learn. Therefore, the consequences of not being ready is also experience, which teaches you. So why are you depriving yourself of opportunities to grow and learn? What holds you back from being less than perfect? There! Capture it! Huh? Try to identify that emotion or thought. Journal about it. Define it in words so you can verbalize what it is that rushes up to prevent you from failing. For me, it was a fragile sense of self. I unknowingly had a persona I had to keep up. One fueled by my ego of being seen as smart and capable of doing things. Thus, failure came to me at a heavy mental cost. But here's the thing. For most things in life, you can't really be ready. Like I explained in my previous video on the traps of future thinking, due to the planning fallacy, you can never prepare for all eventualities of a task before you do it, as in the initial moment, you possess the least amount of information and data, leading you to have blind spots and overestimations in your plans. Thus, even within that conception, you still won't truly be ready. And that's the point. You're never truly ready for most things in life. Thus the phrase, "I'm not ready," just becomes an easy way to enable procrastination or avoidance of our tasks, obligations, and goals. But here is where we use the phrase to our advantage. So you can only ever be not ready. But it seems that throughout human history, people have done and achieved all sorts of things without being ready. That means that you don't have to be ready to do most things in life, which means that you are almost always ready to make a step forward towards your goals and tasks at any moment. Some of you might rightly say, well, you can't just pass a driving exam without having done any lessons. You can't just make $1 billion business, and you can't do dangerous things such as swim across an ocean without being able to actually swim. All of which is true. But even here, notice how the statements fixate on the final destination or goal. Passing the exam, creating $1 billion company, swimming across an ocean successfully. All are certain. All are successful. All are 100%. And all of which are also the best outcome. So sure, you can't just pass the exam, but you can open your textbook and revise right now. You can't just set up $1 billion company, but you can sit down and start to build a business plan right now. You can't cross a large body of deep water, but you can sign up to swimming lessons right now. And even then, you may still fail your driving exam. You may only make a company that's worth $1 million, or you may only get halfway across a large body of water before giving up. Is that inherently bad? How would you treat someone who achieved these results? I know I would probably congratulate them for almost getting there, and then help them get up, dust off their shoulders, and give it another go. Another example. You want to work out for an hour, but you overran your previous task by 10 minutes, which means you'll only get about 50 minutes of a workout done. But by the time you get changed and then showered, it means you'll only have about 30 minutes of properly working out. And then that will be a waste of the high protein meal you were planning on having for dinner. So you decide to not do the workout today and eat whatever instead, as you'll do the workout and protein meal properly tomorrow. This is something you'll have to be mindful of at the beginning, catching the resistance of your mind. And you bet it will throw many perfectionistic hurdles that will attempt to stop you from acting, like in the examples just shown, all of which are certainty, disguised as ideal circumstances. Wait, but shouldn't we want to operate in ideal circumstances? Sure, where you can, you should make the most of it. But the reason you're probably watching this video is that you're overly reliant on ideal circumstances and won't act if one isn't present. So being inefficient while trying our best is where we start. As by being inefficient, we fail at being perfect. And by failing to be perfect, you'll start to act more often and get closer to being your best. And that's how we hijack our constant questioning of our readiness. Whenever we approach a task, we ask ourselves, am I ready to do this task? And we inevitably reply, no. Which now actually means we're more than ready to give it a go. As we can never be ready, but we can always make a step forward. For some of you, this change of perspective might be enough to get the ball rolling and take a little risk. For others, the feeling of fear could be the final roadblock to action. For you, I say try something small. Cut your task down by 50%, 25%, or even 12.5%. But that won't be enough. Exactly. That's why it's perfect. Start with a tiny step. Be inefficient. You could even start this process in a video game. Pick the quest, game mode, or challenge you've been avoiding all this time and give it a go. Don't be afraid of doing it badly. But, most importantly, observe yourself while doing so. How did you feel before, during, and after? How did the fear of the challenge or failure arise? Observe how you weathered it and how, in the end, you survived it. For those who feel that their situation is starting to negatively impact them, and you're really struggling, seeking professional help is the right thing to do. This is certainly a topic you'll be able to explore with a therapist or a counsellor who will be able to give you help and tailored guidance to your particular circumstance and support you throughout. I'll leave you with this. Think of hope. I'm sure you all hope that you'll be able to achieve whatever goal, dream, or ambition you have within your lifetime. But notice what hope entails. Hope is not certainty. Hope is steeped in uncertainty. It assumes that within the thick fog of uncertainty, where possible failure lies, is the idea that you can succeed. That you'll be able to learn to navigate through failure and uncertainty and reach the other side. So, are you ready to not be ready at life?